the Victory Studios in downtown Little Rock. This is Capitol View.
And good Sunday morning to you. Welcome into Capitol View. I'm Jay Burr. Well, this week we sat down with a panel of guests to talk about racial issues in Arkansas and the nation. We had community members, law enforcement, and lawmakers. Here's a portion of that conversation as we start with the topic of white privilege. I guess, too, same thing to you. When you hear that term, kind of being on this side of the coin, what do you think? What are some of the emotions that sort of get drawn up when you hear that white privilege term tossed around?
Yeah, and I think your question has two parts: is what do I think and what do I feel? So the reality, so what I think is, it's like Darius said earlier when asked about systemic racism. He said, systemic racism to me is this, right? And so the truth is there are people who in their mind experience and see white privilege as one thing, and that is regardless of how we see it or what the facts are, the fact is that it's a very real thing to them and something that needs to be addressed. I'll tell you emotionally, the thing that pops up to me is that it almost feels like a reverse racism, right? It almost seems like people talk about dog whistles all the time, like it's a dog whistle that is almost like an anti-white thing, right? And so that's the thing that immediately, I feel like it almost causes division and limits ability for people to communicate. The video of the two people cleaning the graffiti off the side of the wall, and the lady screaming at her that it was an example of her white privilege, the fact that she's trying to wash the graffiti off the wall. Now, I think that's an extreme example, but that is, I'll tell you, emotionally, I've got to try to set that aside so that I can have this conversation, so that I can see what you guys are seeing, deal with what you're dealing with, and be able to communicate, because I know what a real thing it is to you. But, I can look around and see in our society all of the exceptional men who are men of color, who are men of diverse backgrounds, people I respect greatly, people I look to as leaders in thought, people that I look to in leadership. Our past president was a man of color, right? So I think that there are great divides that we experience in our society. Primarily, they're based on education more than race. They're based on geography, I think, more than race. But at the same time, having said all that, that's a perspective I'm coming from, and I probably need to make sure that I listen to other people, because whether I agree with it being reality or not, that's what they see as a reality. And so it's something that we're faced with dealing with right now.
A very
and it's something, and I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
I'm sorry. Well, and it's something that, in all respect to Senator Ballinger, it's something that he can't see. It's something that he can only respond as he's responded because of what he is. And I obviously understand that he can't see it. He and I have talked before about this to some degree, but I think what's critical now is that the last part of what he said is that he listened to someone that he respects, to those of color that he do respect, that he think will be genuine and authentic, and are not just trying to gain an advantage or trying to do anything that's other than civility and what's just right for everybody. So I do understand where you are, but I beg of you to listen, because I promise you it is what we're saying it is.
And you know what, and that's a very good point to make, and I'm glad you am, and I'm glad we're having this conversation about white privilege, because I think there are many white people that really don't understand that term when they hear it. They hear something completely different, but I do think that perhaps that is part of the breakdown, and that's where, in some cases, racism enters. And Brian, I want you to talk about this, because I know you're a historian, and certainly you've followed racial issues for a very, very long time. How does white privilege and the perception of what it is come into play?
So I want to make it perfectly clear that on some level, we all have privilege. And I think that recently with the coronavirus, privilege was demonstrated that people have, because I recognize my privilege. I was able to work from home. I was able to, we had internet and enough computers that I could work and my son could attend school at the same time. I'm fortunate enough to be able to send my son to a very good school. So privilege exists on all levels, not just white privilege. But the example of white privilege that I would like to point out that is crystal clear in my mind is a few years ago in Oregon, I think it was, the Bundy family took over that federal facility and no one was shot, no one was killed. Yet you see peaceful protesters in the park across the street from the White House, and they're shot with rubber bullets and tear gas. That is the example of white privilege that so many of us in the African American community see. We see that we do the same things that white people will do, and there's two totally outcomes to those actions. And in my mind, that's a crystal clear example of white privilege, what white privilege is. And historically, it's happened. It's occurred throughout history. Only the thing is that it wasn't considered white privilege until recently. In the past, in the 1800s, early 1900s, it's just the way life was, right? It was the social norms that people lived in and were expected to live in. My grandfather was born in the 1930s in Southeast Arkansas. And as I began to grow up, one of the things that he told me was never leave home without any money in your pocket and your ID, because vagrancy laws existed in this country. And so black men who were out on the street with no money and no ID were arrested. They were put in jail. They were fined an exorbitant amount of money that they could not pay. And then some white-owned business would come in later, pay their fee, and then they would be required to work for that company for X amount of years. It was the peonage system, and it existed in America up until the 1940s. So these are things that we've lived through in the recent past, not the distant past, but the recent past. And so I understand that some of our white brothers and sisters don't understand the term of white privilege. They think it's about money, but it's more than money. It's about access, and it's about being able to do things that would cause me or another black man or woman to be arrested and possibly even killed.
Coming up after a quick break, hear more from our town hall conversation. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
When your normal activities are on pause, create a new routine that the whole family can enjoy. A space where you can unplug, unwind, and connect with what matters most. A hot spring spa from Townley is the ideal backyard retreat. Every day made better with a hot tub from
Townley.
Stay tuned to get this free designer pan.
Hi, Chef Daniel Green here with my new copper-style designer pan that's guaranteed to beautify your kitchen like never before. Eggs slide right out. It's oven safe up to 500 degrees and it wipes clean with ease.
I can't believe how beautiful this pan is.
I tell you, I'm sold.
Get Gotham Steel Hammered today for just $29.99 and get this single-serve egg pan absolutely free. We'll even ship it to you free. Call now.
As a family-owned business, we have always taken pride in serving fresh and delicious food in all of our restaurants. But we have recently taken additional measures to ensure the safety of our guests and employees. We've implemented curbside service, delivery, and takeout. We also have drive-through windows at multiple locations, including our newest store on Highway 10 in Little Rock. Come by to pick up our award-winning food or let us deliver to your home or office. As always, thank you for your loyal support.
1 in 9 Americans struggle with hunger, yet 40% of the food in America is wasted. The Kroger Company's Zero Hunger, Zero Waste Foundation is working to help end hunger and food waste in neighborhoods across America. Together, we can help end hunger. Learn more at zerohungerzerowastefoundation.org.
Invest in yourself, create wellness, relax at home. Take advantage of Townley's special hot tub purchase program. No down payment, no interest for 60 months. Every day made better with a hot tub from
Townley.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back to Capitol View. We hosted a town hall this week discussing race and its many complexities. Bart Simpson with the state FOP had this to say about police training.
I'll start with this on protesting. Just like Chief Menden said,
You know, as police officers, our job is we live in a free society. We are given by the rule of law, and that's what we're supposed to be. We live in, I believe, the greatest country in the world. If you look at other countries, they're not like we are here as far as things go. As far as protesting, you know, we're there to, again, protect the protesters, protect the First Amendment rights to gather and to express your opinion. That's the way it should be, and that's the way it's going to be. But what you have is you have the peaceful protesting. Just we'll take in Little Rock. There's been a whole lot, many hours, many days of peaceful protesting. But then you have other people that come in that are there. When they start throwing rocks and bottles and breaking things and destroying property, destroying things at the state capitol, and hurting people and causing violence, then those are no longer protesters. Those are, as Chief Mendes said, they become criminals because that's not protesting. That's not standing out there and exercising their First Amendment rights. So we are kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because we're there to protect the protesters, but we're also there to enforce the law. That's what our job is. You ask about training. I can speak on the Little Rock Police Department. We have a unit that is called the Special Response Unit that is made up of patrol officers, and depending on, I mean, you can be in the detective division and be part of the Special Response Unit. And they do training. And what that is for large gatherings like that, it's standard procedures on how to handle that. When you see those lines of officers out there with the helmets on and all that, they train in that on how to do that. Part of that training is also de-escalation, and you try to do that. Regardless of what somebody's standing in front of you yelling at you, you're trained to stand there, hold that line, listen to what they're saying, and not let emotions, I mean, because, hey, let's face the fact, we're all human. And when somebody's yelling nasty things at you, your human nature is to react to that. But as a police officer, you're trained not to do that. And sometimes, let's be honest, it's difficult. Again, we're all human beings, and we all have feelings and things that bother us. So there is a lot of training that goes on. It's ever evolving, that training across this country. I'd like to speak on what was said earlier. We were talking about white privilege. You know, just like Mr. Ballinger said, me as a white man, being able to understand exactly what, or even to a small detail of what you're feeling. It's hard to do that. But what I think is this: no matter what race we are, we're the human race, and we all have to be willing to talk and hear each other's side, respectively hear each other's side, and look for a solution. You know, and that starts with compassion and understanding and trying to put ourselves in the position and being able to try to understand what the other person is feeling. I think that's the only way that we're going to affect change.
Darius, I want to start with you. How do we move forward from the point where we are right now?
I'm going to really briefly dive into the fact that I totally agree with what everybody is saying, and I totally respect, especially the points of our leaders in law enforcement. But one quick point, I want you to understand that this country has a history of having to resort to demonstrations beyond being peaceful to get their voices heard. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that it's the way that all things should go about, but not until people begin to be a little excessive in their demonstrations until you really sit down and listen. And I think that's what, like me speaking on behalf of my younger peers, that's their frustration, having to go and accelerate a movement with rioting or chaos in order to get leadership to listen and comprehend. So I think going forward, now we have your attention. Now we can go ahead and put our grievances on the table. And now you're willing to listen. And now we can shape policy together. And now we can shape procedures together in order to make sure that this doesn't continue to happen. And that's my take on it.
what do you think we can do legislatively to either encourage that or promote that a little more?
Well, I think that the issue is, what are the solutions? And primarily, I think most solutions are not government solutions, right? Most solutions are handled if it's a major problem in a community, societal problem. Those are typically handled, through the churches, through the schools, through families. They tend to be what fixes it, and then government usually follows. However, sometimes societal problems will manifest itself in government making it worse. And I think an example that I brought up is that there was a bill last year to try to limit the ability of a city to put really onerous restrictions on property, on buildings that would be built in the city. Well, that is an example of something that could have a disparate impact on a minority group. It wasn't designed to suppress, in this case, it would have been a city, a large number of Hispanics. It wasn't designed to suppress Hispanics, but the effect of it would have made it where Hispanics weren't able to live as close to their work, right? You see that when you put in a 6-lane interstate through the middle of Little Rock that further divides a community that's primarily a community of color from the rest of Little Rock, then you really are legitimately creating a problem, and that's an area where it should be debated. And while that's not necessarily a state issue, those type of things happen all the time. And so what I would say is, those are things that we can look at and we can say, take into consideration and make sure that we are not furthering a problem. I mean, everything that everybody brought up, historically, even gun laws, most of them were based on race to try to limit the colored people from being able to get guns, right? Things like zoning laws were to limit the ability for people of color to be able to locate their homes and businesses in certain areas. So there's a lot of things out there that have been designed, and some of those just by, basically time, just by it sitting there may still be there. And those are areas that we could address. But those are so small compared to the bigger problems.
When we come back, Attorney General Leslie Rutledge joins us to talk about what her office has been up to. She's been busy, so stay with us. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
It's our vacation at home sale at Family Leisure. Pools, patio furniture, swing sets, spas, and more. All priced to move. Shop online, call us, or set up a FaceTime visit today. Pick up delivery and no contact installation also available. Vacation at home sale going on now at Family Leisure.
For the past 3 years, we have been your neighborhood bar and grill. The staff you know is still here to serve you. Our award-winning cuisine is returning with exciting new dishes. Our mixologists have crafted new signature cocktails. The patio is set up for your family and friends. The garage doors are open on the Sidewalk Cafe. Let us pour you a peachy keat. We're excited to welcome you back.
Are you overwhelmed by debt? Danicke Law Firm can help you turn it around. Our team will evaluate your case, simplify the bankruptcy process, and protect you from abusive debt collectors. Put yourself on the road to financial recovery with Danicke Law Firm.
If you have a water emergency, call the certified professionals at Stanley Steamer and get back to dry.
For 24-hour emergency water restoration,
call 1-800-STEAMER. Stanley Steamer gets your home cleaner.
Sold it, sold it, sold it. Attention Conway homebuyers and real estate investors. Absolute Real Estate Auction. With a custom-built 2-story estate home situated in Conway's exclusive Fairways at Centennial Valley Country Club subdivision. With a 5,200 square foot main house, 1,700 square foot guest home, outdoor kitchen, entertainment area, custom-built pool, basketball court, and 2 double garages. Sell regardless of price. Wednesday, June 17th at 2 p.m. Download the Wilson app or go online at wilsonauctioneers.com. Sold it, sold it, sold it.
This is Arkansas, and there's never been a better time to rediscover it. With plenty of outdoor space, fresh air, and new adventures just up the road, a vacation in the natural state makes more sense than ever. This is Arkansas. This is the natural state.
It's our vacation at home sale at Family Leisure. Pools, patio furniture, swing sets, spas, and more. All priced to move. Shop online, call us, or set up a FaceTime visit today. Pick up delivery and no contact installation also available. Vacation at home sale going on now at Family Leisure.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back to Capitol View. The governor has taken an active role in how law enforcement handles the protests here recently, but the chief law enforcement office has a role in that too. And here to break that down for us and a couple other things is Attorney General Leslie Rutledge. And you know, we always love having you in here. How you been? How's it been out there having to deal with the COVID and everything?
Well, thanks, Jay. It's been an extraordinarily busy spring for everyone, and certainly those of us at the Attorney General's office. First, we've been hand in hand working with Governor Hutchinson to combat the COVID-19 pandemic, making sure Arkansans are protected. First and foremost, making sure that the 30,000 phone calls that we have received since COVID has begun, that we're answering those calls, we're responding to consumers and protecting them throughout this health crisis, whether it's price gouging, child abuse, cyber crimes, Medicaid fraud. All of those phone calls have been coming in, again, 30,000 in just the last couple of months. We've worked hand in hand with the governor also on when he's made decisions with regard to, say, the elective procedures. And when Little Rock Family Planning Clinic did not want to follow the same rules as everyone else, my office steps in and defends that decision of Governor Hutchinson.
Let's get into some of the protests here recently. Again, I know Governor Hutchinson has kind of been there in the command center, but being the chief law enforcement officer of the state, what's been the role that you've taken in assisting all of these entities in kind of trying to keep the peace?
Absolutely, and reaching out not only to Governor Hutchinson and offering assistance to Colonel Bill Bryant with the state police, local authorities as well. But I think this is a great time for leaders to listen to Arkansans and to listen to the cries for justice and to make sure that people are being heard across our state and across our country. Now's the time for us to come together heart to heart and not be fighting one another eye to eye. Just as Governor Hutchinson has said, it's important for Arkansans to understand that we will protect your constitutional right to protest peacefully. However, as law enforcement and as society, we cannot have those looting and destroying property and hurting other individuals. The man who committed the murder of George Floyd had no business being in law enforcement. 99.9% of our law enforcement are great Americans, great Arkansans, and they're there for the right reason. But when there is a bad cop, that person should never have been a cop.
Absolutely here. Let's switch gears here. Get into some of the COVID things that are still going on. I know everybody's a little tired of hearing about it, but you even mentioned just the volume of phone calls that you've gotten, whether it be scams, whether it be price gouging. What's your office been doing to combat a couple of those things?
Well, immediately once the governor declared a state of emergency, we put out information with regard to price gouging laws that went into effect. As I said, we've handled over 30,000 phone calls. We had a couple of thousand investigations, or rather price gouging complaints. We have a couple dozen investigations ongoing with that. But we've also been working with Amazon, Walmart, others to make sure that their online sites are not allowing other companies or individuals to post items for sale above the price gouging laws. Likewise, something that we have seen is the not-so-scam problem of people receiving their debit cards from the United States Treasury and not realizing that this is cash money that the United States has sent as part of the payroll assistance, and to make sure that the economic impact payments are getting to Arkansans. It comes in a plain white envelope with cardholder money services on it. It is very deceptive, unfortunately, and we've heard from many people who have accidentally thrown that envelope away. And again, that is money due to you that has come directly to you, and that's from the, again, economic impact payments.
I know, it's an absolute mouthful there. So I guess what is the office doing to try to help those people kind of get that back? Because as you say, there's been a lot of confusion with that.
There has been. And so I want Arkansans, if you believe that you have inadvertently thrown that envelope away from the federal government that contained your economic impact payment, call us at the Attorney General's office or visit us online, or you can go directly to EIPcard.com. That's EIPcard.com. And that, again, stands for Economic Impact Payment Card.com. And you can file with them to ask for another card to be delivered to you. Even one of my team members at the Attorney General's office had to go dumpster diving because someone in her family had thrown their card away. So, folks, we want you to have that money because we know Arkansans are hurting. Families across Arkansas are hurting during this time. Absolutely. And then I guess last thing here, you know, we're getting to that time of year. It's that season again. We've heard the rumblings. So I guess, Leslie Rutledge, is there a potential run at the governorship in your future? Well, I guess thanks, Jay, for the question. You know, right now I've been so focused on being the Attorney General for the last 5.5 years, doing all the things that we talked about, shepherding us through this pandemic, supporting Governor Hutchinson and his efforts. That being said, Arkansans are concerned, and many people have reached out to me and asked and encouraged me to look at a gubernatorial run in 2022 when I am term limited as Attorney General, and I'm given that serious consideration. But now is the time to stay focused on the task at hand while also looking into the future. Oh, Leslie Rutledge, you're sharp. We're gonna, one of these days, we're gonna trip you up here. All right. Well, we're bumping up on time here, but we certainly appreciate it, and you're welcome back here anytime if you do want to make that announcement. Oh, thank you, Jay. You have a great day. All right. Appreciate you. And we are back to wrap it up after this. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
Injured? Let's talk about your next move. You're in a car wreck and think you can't afford a lawyer. Well, that's just not true. At Rainwater Holt & Sexton, we offer the no-fee guarantee. Absolutely nothing is owed to us unless we get money for you. The insurance company has lawyers working for it. Why shouldn't you? So if you've been injured, now you know your next move. Let us help you weather the storm. Anywhere in the state, dial 888-8888.
Doctors call it exercise. Kids call it playing. We call it making memories. 30 minutes of exercise a day could change your life and change theirs. Just 30 minutes can boost your brain power and improve circulation, reduce stress, and improve your relationships. It can even lower your risk for stroke, diabetes, or heart disease. Exercise, playtime, or having fun. Whatever you call it, just move. So drop the phone and give me 30. Drop the remote and give me 30. As Mama used to say, go outside and play. 30 minutes a day can save your life.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And that is it for this week's show. We're back with an all-new Capitol View next week. For that full conversation, just head over to our website at krk.com. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay safe out there.